right. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Onyx Report. I'm sorry, I'm over here trying to make sure I don't drop the ball on any of this stuff. But anyway, welcome to the Onyx Report, where black male justice advocates uplift black men and boys using critical analysis. Hope you guys are well. Glad that I'm seeing brothers on it lately. Been killing the game as far as articulating black men's thoughts and concerns. So I'm really excited about this time period because of y'all. Right out the gate, let me shout out Dardar for that early support. Much appreciated. He said it's not understood and it's not appreciated. So brothers are killing it and we ain't even gotten started yet. But y'all know what it is, man. You know what you got to do. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Support the channel if you will, so we can continue to bring you this independent black male thought. And you can do so in a variety of ways. You know the deal. There's the Venmo, there's PayPal, there's of course the Cash App link you see on the screen. You can also become a patron, not only of the Onyx Report on YouTube, but also the Institute for Black Male Studies and the Onyx TV network. So make sure that you are supporting. And if you haven't done any of those things, or you're not able to, you can at least subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. You know, you can do that, become a member, and hit the like button so that we can continue to bring you this kind of work. Y'all know what it is. Get this out the way. All right. So let me shout out some of the brothers, and I'm, you know, in particular grateful because I know you guys were listening to BGS and you migrated over. So I appreciate that. Shout out to Tim. Shout out to Layman's Journal. Y'all check out and support the Layman's Journal channel. What's up? If you hear Layman, I need to get with you, man, because I just watched this series called The Power on Amazon, and I will be covering it. So let me know if you want to cover it with me. Blood Pro, what's up? I'm listening. What's up? Incognito. Barry, man, much appreciated for the support in the chat. So thank you for that. Brother Ron, Sleepy, what's up? Almanize, what's going on? Geek Surgeon, you know, AM, Eclectic Agitator. Spain Man, what's good with you, man? OC Show. Let's see. Oh man, it says my new favorite channel, man. Appreciate that. Raheem, what's up? All right, got Leon in here. Mr. Lowski. Brother Malika. Always good to see Brother Malika in the space, man. Hope you good. You know what I'm saying? So we getting it started. Ogun's Machete, what's up? MLR. Always good to see you, man. LXST. Let's see. What else we got in here I haven't acknowledged yet? Metacog, what's up? Pragmatic Prime. You know what I'm saying? Barry with the donation. Much appreciated. Derek, what's up? Atlanta Stay Focused. Right? I think that's 6. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's dope. Grade I9. Brother Paul, what's up? They had to leave Miss Dana's broadcast to catch you live. Was dropping a little knowledge about the Star Spangled Banner. I ain't mad at Jill Scott, but I'm circumspect about the Essence Festival. Oh, all right. Jay Cleveland was good. Larry, you know, Mr. Com, AM, appreciate that support. We got KJ Eternal in here. Yonda, Beastly Nerd, what's good, man? King, 2Triv, man, brothers up in here. Jared's Viewpoint, getting it in. Hey, Rue, what's up? Simeon Toko, appreciate that support. Aquatechy, what's good? Miguelito, I probably butchered that. I apologize. Enigma, what's good? Forever Blessed. So we in here, you know, much appreciated. And as I said to you guys before, if for some reason you really don't want your name public and you'd like to support the show, you can hit up the Cash App and just let me know you don't want your name brought up with the when I extend the thank yous, and that's all well and good, so I can do that. But so we're going to get into a subject that BGS has been covering lately, you know, pretty well. And I'm glad he is. And I appreciate it. And as a matter of fact, I decided if I was going to get back into the subject, which I haven't touched on in a while, it'd be best to actually bring the brother up. So he was kind enough to come through. Shout out to Ogun's Machete. And oh, wow. Thanks to Brother MLR for that generous support, man. Thank you on the Cash App. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead and bring BGS in here so we can actually talk about the stuff that's going on. Ogun's Machete said for the sword collection. You know what it is. Yeah, that's right. Mr. Lowski says this costs as much as a meal at McDonald's, but it's far healthier. Keep at it, brother. Appreciate that. Sincere says peace and good health to you, Doc. Thank you. Brother BGS,
Yeah, if I come to your house, I'm stealing that bat lift, man. That bat lift is mine.
We need to have it. Shit. God damn. Yeah. Shout out to Beastly Nerve, the Cash App. Appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah, man. We got to get it in. But I got a lot of good stuff to throw at you, today, so we can discuss some of this stuff. But before we delved in, and before I kind of start, going into the topic, I wanted to get you to tell us what brought up emotional labor in the last few weeks, and and why is it important to you that Black men be aware of it?
Um, Basically, it's I'm tired of hearing women trying to make boys and men emote like women do. And what
Mhm,
brought it up with me, I think it was that therapist. I think the crazy ass therapist that talked about emotional labor and emotional rapport and how to talk to your women. And she
mhm.
kind of went nuts. Okay, that kind of brought it up, kind of brought it back up to the surface. But it's been there
Yeah,
because they're trying to make boys, especially black boys, into little white girls and emote just like them and talk just like them. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
and I think, and we actually see this in the in films, right? In the lately the films like the Woman King and Black Panther and all yada yada yada, right? Where you're trying to uh, make men express themselves like females.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
the only model that's acceptable.
yes,
Is, I mean, to deal with your emotions, and the subtext is to be considered an adult, to be considered
yes,
balanced and mature.
yeah,
You have to have developed a maturity about handling your emotions. But the only
yeah,
model we seem to accept for that is how women do it. So if you're not emoting like a woman, you're
right.
immature, you're primal, and of
Yeah,
course toxic.
you're repressing your emotions. Little
Yes,
boys should cry more.
yes.
And I was just having an argument with, I'm not going to mention it. I just having an argument about little boys don't express themselves enough, don't cry enough, and stuff like
Hmm.
that. You're too stoic.
Hmm.
And I said, I was trying to say this has been developed over 100,000 years. It didn't just start. Okay,
Yeah, it didn't.
it's not new to our history or new to our and to our culture. It's all over the world. In
Yeah.
fact, we're not even the most stoic. Okay, the most stoic people are in Asia. Okay.
Well, see, to me, when you talk about balance,
Hmm.
internal balance, especially if
Right.
you bring in the esoteric, the thing about it is we're in this era where people are really focusing on, the sacred mother, right?
Right.
The feminine goddess, so to speak. But they forget the divine masculine has always been in existence. That
Hmm.
men have been balanced. This has been a concept men have grappled with for centuries, and for the most part, I think Africa has been one of the primary spaces to push that narrative, but it didn't become something, to talk about until this push toward the sacred feminine became this major point. And the subtext was that because men weren't women, we lacked in our contact with the sacred feminine and thus were imbalanced. And
Right.
I would actually argue, even in today's popular media, you're finding examples of balance in men
Hmm.
that,
Amen.
that isn't an accidental. I mean, I've talked to, for the last year about Tom Cruise's Top Gun 2. There are
Right.
examples of that in there. I talked
Hmm.
about Mark Wahlberg's film,
Father.
huh?
Yeah. To my father. Yeah. Yeah.
Father Stew. Yeah.
Father
And I,
Stu.
I just recently remembered another one, even though people weren't really thrilled with Marvel's Falcon
Hmm.
series that was on Disney Plus.
Right.
When you look at, the Falcon, who's just now become, or not just now, but who's now, Captain America, when you
Hmm.
actually watch that series, what you see from Anthony Mackie is
Hmm.
an attempt to demonstrate emotional balance in
Right.
a character, in a superhero figure. And this is what you see. Now you can say what you like about the performance, the writing, you may not have liked this or that, but at the end of the day, this is what he was doing. He
Hmm.
was demonstrating emotional balance, and his
Hmm.
character had a background in counseling veterans.
Right.
So when you're talking about this, this is not a new idea. Shout out to Mississippi Delta guy. Appreciate that generous support. Render under Doctor Render under Doctor T what is doing to Doctor T.
Holy shit.
Crazy man.
Shit.
You know, yeah, I can't explain it. I can't. All I can say is I can't take none of y'all nowhere. KMK, appreciate that cash app. Thank you. But no, man. So there's balance all over the place, but we generally ignore it. We generally dismiss it unless it comes out in a way that we accept in that way has been heavily influenced not only by women as a whole, but really by feminism.
Yes.
And that's become the primary standard. And again, I go back to this. Richard Reeves said it. He said it very recently. He said, when you look at counseling, when you look at psychology, when you look at therapy, these are fields that are headed toward almost a complete 100% female presence. He's saying in the next decade, it'll be likely be 100% at the rate it's going now. So finding a male counselor, I've heard many a man complain about how hard that's been. And there's a reason for that, right? The field is tipped way to the feminine. And so masculine performances of balance, the argument just tends to be, well, it's all the same. We're all human. It doesn't make a difference. No, it makes a difference.
It makes a difference. It does. And that's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing to actually tell women, especially, is that we're not the same. It does make a difference. The performances makes a difference. How we emote is different. Okay. And just because you don't see it as emoting or expressing our feelings doesn't mean that they're not doing it. When I actually showed us officer and gentlemen, in like 10 words, they express a whole range of emotions in 10 words.
Sure. Sometimes in just a look.
In just a look, yes.
Definitely that, So those are some of the kind of things I think we're going to get into. Now, BGS knows this. Some of you know this because I've talked about it when I first came up with the concept. I didn't develop emotional labor. I'm not saying that. Emotional labor as a concept has been around. What I developed is what I call male relationship emotional labor. And that's specifically looking at the way men perform emotional labor for them, for others around them, for family, most particularly in intimate relationships. I think there's been a long-standing tradition of men playing a certain role that, for the most part, gets ignored.
Unrecognized, yes.
Unrecognized as emotional labor. So when I hear people make these complaints that I wish you men would grow up and become, I'm like, you have no idea how much of a norm and a standard that's already been. I want to give you guys an example of this. And I'm actually going to point to the very day I first articulated anything about it. And I'm going to give you some context for how it came about, because it caught me by surprise. So let me see. Let me go ahead and bring this up. Let me see here. All right. Let me move a few things around. Got all these damn screens. I'm only going to be able to make this so big, but that's why we have Snoop Dogg. So I want to see if any of you can hear this. Oh, crap. Just doing too much. But anyway, I'm going to play just a couple words. I want to make sure you guys can hear it because it's this system always acts weird. Tell me if you can hear this.
Black men.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Yeah, I think I got it on the wrong setting, unfortunately. So I don't know what it is.
We're building the plane as we fly it. So,
but it wouldn't be a Dr. T show without the technical difficulties. So let's
Black men and their ignored emotional labor in relationships. Just had a strange flashback. I'm watching a film.
Yeah.
A couple who could not have children. At every street corner they walk by women with babies.
Whoa, Snoop! Whoa!
Yeah,
whoa, Snoop! Down, boy!
God dang, man!
Now, don't let Snoop get started.
I was just testing it. He's off at the gate.
Right.
Right, here we go. So anyway, let me just preface it a little. So I came up with this one night. I was sitting watching a movie. I'm about to explain it to you, and this is where I started to think about the way men demonstrate emotional labor. So Here we go.
Black men and their ignored emotional labor in relationships. Just had a strange flashback. I'm watching a film dealing with a married couple who could not have children. At every street corner they walk by women with babies and baby carriers or receive letters from family members who have just had babies. At each instance, the wife nearly collapses in tears, unless the husband gently redirects her before she even comes into contact with such situations. My late wife and I lost 3 pregnancies in all, despite that she had to deliver one, and I remember damn near developing a radar-like spider sense to help her avoid such understandably devastating situations. To not do so could mean she'd spend several days in bed curled up in silence. There's one scene in the film where she's reading her sister's letter about her becoming pregnant and starts crying. I learned how to read my wife's body language and voice inflections in hyperspeed to know when to listen, when to read it for her, when to change the subject, when to come back to the letter when she could better handle it, or when to catch her before she collapsed to the ground. Having been in that situation several times, I found myself anticipating that the film character wife was getting upset at the outset of reading the letter. I found myself gently mouthing what I've said and done to assuage her, and was amazed to see the actor husband saying and doing exactly what I did. And that includes him redirecting her on the street so she wouldn't see the babies. It made me realize something I've only talked to a rare few about: the emotional work men do in relationships that no one admits occurs. Popular culture tells us only women do emotional work in relationships, but I found this to be untrue. The preemptive yet proactive work of protecting loved ones by both solving and preventing potential problems, especially in situations where the emotional toll of it could last years, of guiding, advising, strategically joking or teasing, changing TV shows or movies or avoiding them altogether, and sometimes engaging in strategic silence when most useful to her, to initiate a conversation or sex, remedy a practical need, provide a nominal distraction, tell a story sometimes related, sometimes purposefully not, or give a gift at precisely the most impactful moment is emotional work. It's inevitable in today's climate that some will call this controlling or patriarchal. Here, I find that certain patriarchal gestures are welcomed by women when it serves them, be it personal or political, but it didn't develop in a vacuum. I noticed that it was actually requested by my wife without words, at first with a lonely tear-soaked stare. It came to be something she relied on. We never spoke it aloud. It just was needed and performed, and thus came into existence. This is marriage after all, and such happens organically. It became like a dance we did that she trusted me to lead so she didn't have to keep putting herself back together again from scratch. Still, if you speak of it, even amongst men, she's been gone for 13 years, and I'm just now acknowledging that I used to do this because of a damn movie. Hell, come to think of it, I now remember holding her hand during these scenes there too when she and I watched this very film, and distracting her with a random observation for as long as the scene lasted. Fellas, we must learn to overcome this silence. If we're valued and judged by invisible emotional labor performed in service to our lovers/wives, then we should speak it aloud and clarify its nature. Because it's damn sure critique when not provided or performed perfectly, despite that we've never been formally taught to do it, and women will expect it, never ask for it, but blame you if you don't perform it with flawless precision.
Right. All right. All right. Had to get that out there. So, any thoughts about that, good brother?
I mean, basically, and that's the thing. It's what you're demonstrating is male emotional labor, right? And that's not being recognized because we're not talking about it. You know, we're not explaining it. We're not verbalizing it. We just do it. Okay.
Right. Right.
And basically, women are about talking. Men are about action. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But providing it as a service, and this is a service.
Yeah.
When you transition out of being a boy and you're out in the world and considered a man, these are things that are expected of you. But as I said, it's not something that we're formally trained on. But watch how fast a woman will leave you if you don't know how to do it.
If you don't know how to do it.
If she doesn't want to ask you, she doesn't want to have to explain it. If you don't, it's like sex. If you don't know how to do it, she's not going to tell you. She's just going to leave. you just expected to know.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think what's happening in the system, they're trying to teach boys to suppress this natural inclination to do it, because we're not taught how to do it. We model it, but also we intuitively actually do it this way.
Yeah,
and I think they're trying to train this out of boys, and women don't like it. That's what I'm finding.
But if you want to know how early this starts, you'd be surprised, or some people would. Shout out to Aquateki for the Cash App, much appreciated. Let me catch up on something real quick. I think I missed. Shout out to Hurricane Greg for the donation. Shout out to Oliver the Gray, says support great content. Appreciate that. Great on 9, appreciate that. He says, I've found in my dealings with many female professionals is the idea that men cannot understand women, but women can understand both men and women.
and yet they clearly cannot. Yeah. And
yet they clearly cannot and admit it when failing. Damn, that's powerful, man. That is powerful and true. Shout out to Jarrett. He says therapy always steers the husband to making excessive concessions. Yeah, but see, even therapy, again, when led by a majority female group, will push more toward male service and more emotional labor. And again, this is the thing; it's such a valuable, product. It's such a valuable practice, despite not being talked about aloud. It's amazing how often, and I would go so far as to include your concept of downloading. Oh yes, downloading is emotional labor. Please explain downloading to the population.
Okay. Downloading, and if anybody that's ever been in a relationship with serious relationship with a woman, okay, I don't care how long it's been, right? Okay, it's when the female would actually engage with you and discuss on almost like a one-way discussion where she's emoting herself, talk about her problems, talk about her life, talk about her emotions, her feelings, all that kind of stuff for minutes, sometimes hours. Okay,
Hmm.
and it's to make her feel better. I think it was one of the judges. She actually said that where she was actually freaking out, and she called her husband because she was upset. And he came home. He came home for about an hour, and she just ranted and raved and did backflips, and he didn't say a word. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
and when she finished, he asked her, "Are you good now?" And she said she was fine. He said, "If you need me, I'll come back." He
Oh,
was there so she could actually download on him, right,
yeah.
and get that out into a male brain. And the thing is that, but that's not looked at as emotional labor.
You talking about Judge Toller, huh?
Just told her
Yeah.
she said that, right?
Yeah.
She,
Because she was
she, she
also lamenting her husband having recently passed. Rest in peace to the brother.
mhm.
But she was talking about how basically she was saying how well he performed it, because
Yes,
he started that session by damn near cussing him out. So she
yes,
called him at work, I think, and she was frustrated. He came home from work and he just sat down and let her talk. And
yes.
she started out very pissed at him. By the end of it, she felt better. And he was just like, "You done?"
Hmm.
And then he got up and went would do what he had. Now, I'm not always that good. I'll tell you now. It's only so long you can cuss me out before. But at least I understand the concept.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I think it upsets me because I find in this era that this kind of labor that men do, and there's a variety of different types. There's physical, because this is the same thing as physical protection. It's just done on an emotional platform, emotional scale. But it's just like when you expect me to physically protect you in this context, you expect me
Hmm.
to emotionally serve you
Right.
in a way. And if I don't do it the way you want to, there's a problem.
Is
But
the
my
problem.
issue with it is that when it's responded to or taken for granted or treated with disrespect. You know what I mean? It's the equivalent of, I'm going to cook you a meal, but you're going to cuss me out because you don't like the way I made one of the dishes or something of that nature. There's only so much of that I'm going to take, and I'm going to check you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be dramatic, but I do have limitations because I've seen in this era how ignored and underappreciated and taken for granted
Hmm.
men like Judge Toller's husbands are, or whenever any man performs that gesture, how easily it's
Hmm.
dismissed as nothing.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
And women get offended because that really, when I was saying, I wasn't talking to women, I was talking to men. I said, if you're going to perform it, okay, even if you give it away, know the value of your emotional labor
All the
and
value.
actually let people, your woman, know that it is a service, that there is a
Yes,
cost to it, that you're paying for it, right? Okay,
yes,
because your sister, your mother, your aunties, a random woman will actually come up and actually perform emotional labor. I hear guys on the job talk about women on the job, right?
yeah,
Asking them to actually perform emotional labor for them.
yeah.
Can I talk to you for a minute?
Mhm.
And she'll sit there for 30 minutes just ranting, raving, and talking and doing all kinds of stuff, right? And you get nothing for it. The thing is, I said, make sure that they know the value of the labor that you are actually providing for them. Because guess what? If they're doing it, they'll actually voice it about the emotional labor that they're performing for you. They
Well,
want something for it. It's not free.
the
Then
thing,
when they're performing for you,
what I find is if you ask for what you value,
right?
it'll be quickly dismissed, right? So
Yes.
you can sit and trust me, I don't get 10, 15-minute discussions. Usually the women I date are, what's the term? What is it? The loquacious.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'll mess around and be 2 or 3 hours of me going,
Hmm.
mm-hmm. And how do you feel about that? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And that'll go on for hours, but you turn around and ask for a meal or ask for sex and it's clutching the pearls. Like, how
Yeah.
dare
Yeah.
you?
How dare you? Yeah.
It's
Wait
like,
a
wait a
minute.
minute. But the
You.
thing is, watch how quickly your relationship will go downward if you stop performing emotional labor. That's what I mean when I say it's an unspoken expectation of men
Yes.
in relationships. Men
Yes.
are not thanked for it, they're not acknowledged for it. The skill of it is not regarded, yet it is expected of you. And if you don't perform it, you will be punished by her withdrawing from the
It,
dynamic, most particularly the things you value. But she'll downplay the things you value. She'll basically suggest that the things you want in a relationship, especially sex, is
mm,
unimportant, is lowbrow, is
yeah.
this and that. But when it comes to her emotional needs being met and you providing that service, That's incredibly important, even though she'll rarely say it, and she will leave you if you don't do it. So it's an unfair kind of balance. Go ahead.
I called it like actually actually get in a hotel room, right? And now if there's soap and towels in the room, you don't notice them, right? It's part of the room, right? Let the soap and towels be missing.
Right.
You walk in, there's no soap, there's no towels. You will call within 5 minutes to enter in that room.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you look. So again, I was going to say a little early. Let me show you how early this starts, because you learn as a baby, essentially, that your well-being as a living being is dependent on her mood. You learn this, right? Whether it comes to breastfeeding, when it comes to nurturing, being burped, babies learn that how they engage the mother. Now they only have a couple options, crying and whatnot. Is there's only so many responses a child can give, but the child still learns that the mother's mood, the mother's outlook, in many ways shapes their reality. So let me show you an example of some early emotional labor on the part of a male child.
Into that. It's just like you want a girlfriend that's black, because BB is black too, but he's light skinned. Do you want a light skinned girlfriend, or you want a chocolate girlfriend like you?
Oh yeah, I want some chocolate girlfriend. A sexy chocolate girlfriend.
Oh my God, Jace Rumple. You want you some sexy chocolate?
Oh yeah, I want some sexy chocolate.
Okay, Jace, you want her to be tall or short? You want her to be skinny?
I want her to be like my age.
We know you want her to be your age. I said, do you want her to be tall?
Tall, yeah.
Or you want her to be short?
Yeah, sure. I want to be bigger than her, because every man is bigger than girls. So I want her to be like short.
So you want a short girlfriend. You want her shorter than you. Okay, you want her to be skinny, or you want her to be thick, or you want her to be fat, or you want her,
No, I want her skinny.
So you want her skinny?
Yeah, skinny girlfriend.
What do you consider mommy? Do you consider mommy? What is mommy? Am I skinny?
Mama, you pretty.
Sit back. You ain't got a girlfriend hug me and tell me that. Jace.
Yes, you did.
I know you said I'm pretty, but what do you consider me to be? Am I skinny? Am I fat? What do you consider me?
You are getting fat, but I love you. I'm just saying you are getting a little fat.
Okay, so you don't want a girl my size.
What?
I'm just saying.
I love you. I'm just saying
no, baby.
You getting a little big or something. You getting like fat. You getting big like that. Yeah.
So you don't.
Now. You tell me what you saw, bro.
That's emotional labor. He's actually trying to placating her, and he's actually doing it he's learning. She's teaching how to do it like women would actually do it. Women actually do this all the time.
Well,
you go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, he knew that she was out of pocket.
Yes.
She made that about herself. And even he, as a young child, knew that she made it about herself. Because at first, he was just answering the questions and enjoying it. And as soon as she mentioned herself, he knew that if he didn't make her feel good, he would have to deal with the emotional blowback of that.
Yes.
And she would be upset. So I think there's some of it is, self-interest, self-protection. But I think he loves his mother. He doesn't want to upset her, right? So you saw he was willing. He got up out of his chair. He gave her a hug and a kiss. He patted her. He was like, okay.
She trying to soften the blow before he gave her the truth.
Yeah, and gave it to her in a very ginger, soft manner. Obviously, he's a kid, so he's doing it to the extent that he can. But I think it's a profound demonstration of how much he's already learned by this age, right? How much he's already learned by this age in terms of trying to soften the emotional blow. Now, if this is taking place, especially in female-headed households in the Black community at this age, what do you think happens by the time someone's a grown man in a relationship?
Yeah. And especially if he has to do it for the women around him, but also if he's going to get engaged with, mostly with other women, relationship-wise, he's got to learn this. Black men learn this early.
Yeah, Black men learn this early. And I would argue we learn it earlier than other groups of men, but I think this is something, and I think we learn it earlier because I think it's way more of an expectation in relationships from men, right? This is what I think is partly what's going on. But I'll show you an adult version of this. So this is not the same person, obviously, but think of this, archetypically as the boy grown up. Check this out.
Like, how am I going to say this where she's not going to be offended by what I'm saying? And if she's the issue that I'm going to bring up, I got to say it in a way that is not going to hurt her feelings. So I'm not here patting her back while she's crying about the problem that I'm trying to bring up. Like, so you got to think about all of these things, and then you got to wait for the right time, because depending on what it is, you can't just come out and just drop it when you're ready for it. You gotta pick. You gotta make sure that, like, I didn't catch you on a high right now, like a high, like something great that's happened to you, so I don't want to blow your high. I can't catch you when you're already sad about something, because I'm just gonna just make it worse. You know what I'm saying? If you're moody or anything, I gotta hit it. I gotta hit the pocket just right, that you don't react to it in a negative way, and you potentially take it in the spirit that I'm trying to give it. And once you got that down, it's still 50-50.
Any thoughts about that?
Look at the logical manner that he goes about trying to figure out how to give her perform the emotional labor. It's not I feel. Okay, he's trying to he's actually trying to logically figure out what mood she's in, what time of day, how he's going to approach it. He's actually going through a very thoughtful, logical manner, and that's how men approach emotional labor, especially toward women. He's actually thinking about it. He's not actually just blurting it out, okay,
right,
or just emoting it, okay. He's thinking about it,
mm-hmm.
and it's very in a very precise manner. See all the hoops that he's jumping through just to tell her something that he needs to tell her.
Now, what makes this video important is this is a calculus that men perform, and almost never. It's not an accident that these explanations are coming out now. This is not something that we've heard prior. Men don't talk about this publicly.
No.
The thing about it is you have to be stoic, and you mentioned stoicism earlier. You have to be stoic, and it's expected that you perform this calculus internally, and you perform it in a reserved, almost kind of, what's the term when you damn, man, my memory is still shot, man. Man, this summer has got me. But it's almost nonchalant. You have to be stoic. You have to be nonchalant. You can't demonstrate that you've spent this much time thinking about it.
Right.
And you damn sure can't bring it up. You just have to do it. And when you've made a misstep and she starts to emotionally explode, you just take it on the chin, like, well, fuck that one up. And most men punish themselves, as women do punish them, for not having got it right. Because part of what nobody also wants to admit is you damn near got to be psychic. Not only do you have to read her body language, her facial expressions, her voice, and all of that, but you have to just know whatever she hasn't told you.
And what she say, you should have known.
You should have known. Yeah. That's precisely it. And so the subject to me of emotional maturity, emotional expression, especially in men, has been popular lately, right? And the subtext is that men just don't know how to express themselves. They're emotionally immature. I actually argue, I think some men have actually started to push back against this expectation, because we learn to do this from an early age, and at the end of the day, it's not respected and valued outwardly. You'll be left if you don't perform it, but it's not you don't get any kudos for having been able to do it. As a matter of fact, I think Art Cathy says it well when she explains how black men are seen, even though you perform this to a degree that other groups of men haven't. This is what she says.
But it's okay to hate the black man. Black men, I'm gonna say it from me to you. This is just straight up. Black women, 80% of them, they don't like you. 80%, I'm probably sure it's more, but at least 80% of black women in this day and age, it don't matter how old or young they are, they have a general dislike and hatred for you. That's your real climate, brother. See, I'm not telling you something that you ain't already felt. I'm telling you something that you know. I think it's more too. I truly think it's more too. I think it's more too. And I'm tired of being the one that's not talking about it. I've said this. This is one of the main reasons I don't have a lot of black female friends. I really don't, y'all. I don't. I couldn't imagine what it would be like as a black man to want to fuck these bitches, to want to wife them up and have babies. But the majority of your population, you want a black woman, right? But these hoes is crazy. These hoes really crazy out here. Like, it's an abundance of you that think that all men are dogs, but we all know it means black men. You don't ever roast white men, Mexican men, Indian men, Asian men. You don't ever have nothing bad to say about them. But when we say all men are dogs, you really think it's black men that are dogs. Let's just call a thing a thing. 2021, I swear to God, this the year where the truth about to rain on your head, because we can't even hide from it. You're showing us exactly how you feel. We can have a real conversation with you. If you're on Clubhouse, follow me on Clubhouse at ArtCathy1. There are rooms. I saw a room the other night, and it doesn't matter where I am. You can just overhear black women talking about the relationship conversation, and I'll be like, oh, Lord, here we go with this shit. Because the undertone of all relationship conversations is black men ain't shit. Why these black men ain't doing this? I can't bond with y'all, sis. I cannot bond with y'all when you have a general dislike and vitriol and hatred for our male counterpart. Do you not understand how goddamn psychotic that is? They're psychotic. I mean, too many insecure, emotional.
Okay, so Legacy Tier Strategy says this is old. Gaslight session. Y'all put a 1 in the chat if this is something you still experience to this day. So yes, I granted this particular clip is a few years old, but y'all tell me. Put a 1 in the chat if it's still happening, if you've still experienced it. Put a 2 if you don't know what this is about and you've never experienced it at all. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I said that years before she said it. Low level contempt and hatred for their men.
Yeah. This is in black male studies, we call it anti-black misandry.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about anti-black misandry institutionally. We can talk about it in terms of policy, but we can also talk about it in terms of a low level of contempt in the culture, in families, from mothers and grandmothers to grandsons and sons. We can talk about it from girlfriends to boyfriends, from wives to husbands.
Yeah.
It happens across the spectrum. And we've actually witnessed little girls learning and inheriting it from elder women.
Yes.
So yeah, I played an older clip, but I played that clip because she was strikingly honest. Strikingly. Yeah. She used some language I probably wouldn't use, but to me, that was secondary to what she was saying.
I remember the book you gave me called Their Eyes Are Watching God, and that was written in the 30s, and you could feel the visceral low-level contempt and hatred that she had for black men then, her husbands.
Yeah. The men were always the problem, and we still see this in contemporary media. Look how many 1s are still coming in. Look how many 1s are still coming in. Shout out to Mr. Heat, that generous donation. Appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? But they're still coming in. So you know, you have people, and this bothers me. We've been having these discussions for years. We're referencing materials that are often decades old, sometimes longer. And then we'll have somebody that'll just pop in the chat just to disrupt the session. This is a gaslighting session. This is old. You know what? I don't care if I played a clip from 1975. If the shit still applies.
Yeah. I played clips from 1968.
There you go.
I mean, it's still, the thing is, it's never gotten fixed. It's not gaslighting. It's never gotten fixed.
Never gotten fixed because, well, and shout out to Dardar. He says you really start to notice it once you're made aware of it. Absolutely. Because when you're raised with it, like that little boy, don't think for a minute that he hasn't observed contempt for black males. When it's all you know, it's like asking a fish to explain water. It doesn't work. The fish, that's all a fish knows. You know, asking somebody to explain air when you, as a kid, and you never thought about it. It's not until you actually study it and understand it that you realize what it actually is. So when you grow up on a diet of this, and then somebody tells you that you shouldn't have to live with it, you know, I have a good brother of mine. He went through 2 horrible marriages, and his 3rd one has been great. It's going on a decade. They're happy. I'm happy for him. But he'll tell me to this day, he says, you know, the only reason I really got married is because one day you told me, he was talking to me, he said, you told me I deserve to be loved. He said, Hasan, nobody had ever said that to me. Now, this brother's a decade older than me.
Right.
Nobody had ever told him, and that includes his mother and his
Mm-hmm.
grandmother and his sisters, because like me, he grew up in a family full of women. None of them had ever told him that he deserved to be loved. As a matter of fact, one day he told me he was on the phone with his mother and his grandmother, and they were asking for money, and he said cool, and everything went great. They laughed, they talked, and they were getting off the phone, and it was taking him a second to click off, but they thought he was gone. And they started to talk about him, thinking he was no longer on the phone, and they talked about him like he was a dog.
Mm-hmm.
This is his mother and his grandmother, and it broke his heart. But alongside that, none of them had ever told him he deserved to be loved. It took a random conversation with a friend where I just kind of said it, and he said it changed the course of his entire outlook. And he went out and found somebody that he could chill with that, you know, actually acted that out, but nobody had ever said that. So I'm simply saying this kind of thing, this low level contempt is real for many black men, and many more black men who don't know how to read it as contempt because that's all they've known.
Yeah, and this is not new. You know, people, the James Earl Jones piece that I found years ago, and I played back. It's got to be at least now 6 years ago, probably more than that. I still get comments on that. Black women still hate that video today.
Yeah.
And he was actually rather nice in his description of it. He wasn't going in on them. He said it wasn't their fault. Okay, he was saying it wasn't their fault, but they still hate that video.
All right. I'm just looking in the comments real quick. Y'all enjoy the ride. I see you too. But yeah, you know, this is what we're talking about. I'm talking about a good-hearted brother, beautiful couple. But anyway, so, you know, I want to get to why it's important for us to actually understand male relationship emotional labor, because if this is a currency that you're expected to operate in,
yes,
yet nobody tells you it's a currency,
yes,
you know, it's almost like people walking up to you and digging into your wallet just at random. They'll take hundreds, they'll take fives, they'll take change, and you're just sitting there kind of going, wait, what's going on? And they tell you, oh, it's not worth much, you don't need this, and they're just digging in your pocket. But when you need something, when you need $1, all of a sudden it's an issue. And this is kind of what I mean when I say this emotional back and forth in terms of service and labor. Now, the other thing about this in relationships is that women will tell you there's really you're not supposed to need anything emotionally if you're a quote unquote real man.
Right.
So you are you're it's like you're a pitcher of water and you're expected to keep pouring, but you're not supposed to be filled. You got to go figure that out on your own. You know, she's not supposed to do anything for you. So we can get past the conservative cooking and cleaning. There's really nothing that she's supposed to extend to you. You're supposed to pour into her. It's a one-way street. And if you ask for anything, you're less than a man. Right. And this puts many black men's back against the wall, because when you're trying to have these conversations in earnest, we don't even often know what to ask for, because we've been told, even by parents, even by family, you know, that you're not supposed to need anything. And it's a one-way street. What do you tell the men that listen to you when it comes to their own emotional needs in relationships?
Now, I'm saying is that it's an exchange, right? You give, she has to give. Okay. Now, if you have her, then she has to fill a role. You know, if you have a girlfriend, a significant other, that's their job to actually pour into you, fill your needs, just like you have to fill hers. I tell guys all the time when about downloading. Okay, that's your job. Okay. Just like having a cat or a dog or any other thing that you have to take care of, right? A car. Okay, there's a certain amount of maintenance that has to go into it. That's part of your job. By the same token, that's her job too. Okay, sex, paying attention to you, pouring into you, uplifting you is part of her job too.
Not one way.
It's not a one-way thing, and we have, especially black men, we've been taught that it's a one-way thing, a one-way venture. She can cuss us out, she can, she can break, slash our tires, try to run us over, but it's all good. Okay, you ain't supposed to hit her back. You're supposed to take the abuse, and get nothing. You're supposed to work 2-3 jobs to get her what she wants, but you can't get a meal, you can't get a sandwich. Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to Mr. Heath for that generous donation. Said, I heard someone say women want men that they don't have to love in return. God damn.
You ain't
God
shit.
damn.
You ain't shit, Mr. Heat.
I still think about that to this day. I don't know much, so ain't saying it's true, but damn. He said
Now you want it is they've said it. Okay. Yeah, they've said it. Yeah.
yeah. Women
Because
want men that they don't have to love in return.
because
That's
they
right.
have all these qualifications for you that you have to have 6 feet, 6 figures, you know, be whatever, how many inches. Okay. You got to be understanding, take care of kids, be a good father. And then we say, okay, what are you giving in return? I give me. I don't
Right.
have to have anything.
Right. And just to be clear, on my channel, as far as the whole no Walt argument, not all women are like that. I think I treat that like a given. There's no population where any generality is going to apply to each and every individual to the same extent. I'm not
Yeah.
arguing that. But the reason we can have this conversation in this space and so many men can relate to it is because there are more than enough women that will extend this social expectation on men, and we're on the receiving end of it. So we talk about it freely here because we've experienced it, not because no one else, there's nobody out there that's not doing it. But I think there's a good portion, if not a majority, of women that have been taught in the last couple generations that as long as they have an active vagina, that this is an expectation that they should be able to have and expect, and that vagina is the ultimate currency to them.
Yes.
This is why if you say, okay, this is, I find women that run into men that are not solely driven or driven in any major way by sex. I find that they don't know how to deal with those men a lot of the time. If a man can look at you naked in bed and say, you know what, no, and get up and walk out, it doesn't even have to be an extreme argument or anything. But if for any reason he decides that that's not something he wants to do, I find a lot of women are not prepared for men that have sexual mastery. Mastery over their own sexual nature. A lot of them aren't prepared for that. And I think a lot of that is because they're socialized to believe that sex is the ultimate currency and that as long as she has the trump card, which is vagina, then he will acquiesce to her whims.
Yeah. And I think this is what's going on a lot now since COVID, right? A lot of guys are saying the price is too high. I'm going to go monk. And women do not understand that. They don't understand it.
Well, a lot of men didn't understand it till the damn pandemic.
You got a point there.
I learned about monkhood the hard way, y'all. I called BGS. I was cleaning the slate. I said, you know what? I'm tired of this. Let me just get rid of everything going on and I'll restart. Let me just take a couple weeks and then I'll restock and figure out which direction. And then we saw the news and said, well, everybody's gonna have to shelter. I said, what the fuck? So I found out, it ain't exactly easy to pull during the pandemic. And BGS said, I'll never forget this. He said, now look, you're about to go through monkhood. He said, now here's the thing about it. You hate it now. There's going to come a point where you're not going to hate it. As a matter of fact, there's going to come a point where it's going to get real comfortable. Y'all, I'm going to tell you, I thought he was full of shit. I really was like, you don't know me, man. I'm a Gen Xer. I've been having sex since I was young, and not all of that was voluntary. So, it's just been a part of my consciousness, for decades, excuse me. And so he said, okay, wait. I started to notice. I was like, wow, I can actually say that I'm not going to have an argument this entire day. And I wouldn't have an argument the whole day. I started to look at my bank account and I was like, it's exactly where it was yesterday. I'm not used to that for some reason. And then it got to the point where I couldn't remember the last time somebody called me on some bullshit and just started acting a fool. And I called him and I said, man, I feel content. And this fool just broke out laughing. He said, I told you. I told you. There's an upside to monkhood that I did not expect. But talk a little bit about that if you would.
Basically, okay, about that, right, is because you've been socialized and conditioned to actually deal and actually give emotional labor. You don't see it that way because, like you said, a fish in water doesn't know what water is, okay, until you get taken out of it.
And women don't want us to know how valuable that shit is.
No, they do not. In fact, I don't think they know how valuable it is until they get it taken away from them. It's like the soap and towels in a hotel room, okay? It's not valuable until you don't have it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, where are my soap and towels? Okay. Where are my soap and towels? Because I can't take a shower or a bath without my soap and towels. That's what the room is for.
Shout out to Trauma for the Cash App. Appreciate that. Go ahead.
So when so we're so socialized to actually give, and actually not get anything for it, any kind of recognition for it, okay? Because we've been socialized that way, just like the little boy, just like the man, right? How many tell my girlfriend this negative news? They gotta wait for the right time, get her in the right mood, uh, use the right words. Okay, that's just par for the course until you actually don't have to do it, right? Go 6 months without having to do it.
Right.
And then try to reintegrate yourself back into doing it again. Even little bitty things like planning a date, telling jokes to make her happy, basically carrying on a conversation with her and trying to get her to understand how to carry on a conversation with a woman. Okay, women just talk. Men carry a conversation.
It'll be a monologue if you let it. It'll be a monologue, and you just got to sit there listening.
And sit there and listen.
Working your way in like double dutch, just trying to find entry. And she'll let you in and let you right back out after let you right off. Oh yeah.
And 90% of it you don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that today. And or she'll call you like 3 o'clock in the morning because she's lonely. Okay. And I'm asleep. Okay. She'll wake you up. Okay. Like, yeah, I gotta go work in the morning. What are you calling me for? Yeah, I hope this is an emergency. No, I was just lonely. I need somebody to
go to work without having like 3 hours.
Yeah. But the thing is, when you don't have to do that for 6 months to a year and try to get back into it, you find out how much it actually irritates you. Okay. The topics that she picks irritates you. How you trying to please her, being in her presence kind of irritates you. It takes time to actually build up that kind of resistance.
Oh yeah,
because you become content. No,
you become, and this is the thing too. When you've never had contentment before, and it's just like MLR is saying, it brings you eternal peace. When you've never been content, again, I'm Generation X. We were raised not only on hip hop, we were raised on 80s R&B seduction. When I got to high school and college, men traded stories on how to get massages. What was the best oil to use? Did you have your mixtape together? Every brother I knew had at least one mixtape, right? You had all your songs lined up,
right? Yeah. Oh yeah.
And when you got, when I got to college, I went to Dominguez Hill, so they had apartments for dorms. So everybody had a room that you can close a door. And I say that because my son's school doesn't have that. They just have 3 people in the room, 2 people in the room. That's it. But when we had, apartments for dorms, you learned how to use the blue light, the red light. You learned about incense. Brothers were holding goddamn classes down at the student center because there was an incense booth. And so everybody would go down and brothers was, no, I wouldn't use that one. That'll do this, this, and this. You want to use this one over here. So we were breaking it down to a science, from the music to the seduction to the ambiance, how dark and light it should be. And this is, and of course, how clean it should be, how clean you should be. I mean, we held courses outside, having these discussions, debating which cologne works best, and so on and so forth. These were everyday things for men. So chasing sex was just part of the reality. And again, if you've ever experienced having been, molested or violated as a kid, sex becomes a part of your psychological lexicon in a way that you can't articulate. Matter of fact, what you even translate as pleasurable or not pleasurable is often related to that early violation. So if you're coming out of any type of sexual trauma, it ends up playing into your sexual imagination in ways that you don't often understand. You just know what turns you on and what doesn't. And it can be something that people understand or something that doesn't. It just is what it is. Right? And so when you're coming out of that experience, never having experienced contentment, the first time you experience it, it's liberational, right? And after you go through that period, you find that you're forever different. So even when you relate to women or have conversations with women, you find that you're free from chasing that thing that you've always been taught to chase.
Right, exactly. That you've been socialized to chase.
Yeah, you've been socialized to chase. And women will play with that. Women will, tease you with it and take it back when they're mad at you. But when you get to a point where you stop caring, oh man.
Indifference, yeah.
Oh man, they're not ready for that. Now, I'm gonna play you a clip of what I'm referring to, and I played this in the last one, but it deserves replaying. I'm not necessarily advocating for the woman's channel. She's replaying it, but this was the cleanest version I could find in the time I had, so forgive me. But this is what I'm talking about. When I talk about contentment, I'm also talking about a certain level of emotional maturity and a means by which you can articulate yourself to somebody on emotional terms in ways that often women aren't expecting. Check it out.
A pretty emotionally intelligent dude. I've noticed that there's only room for my emotions when they're convenient for the woman that's asking me to be emotionally intelligent. That any emotional labor I do that's not for her convenience or not that something she specifically asked for, that either goes unnoticed or when I'm saying something that's not favorable, the shit gets used against me and it becomes about how she feels about what I said and not about the shit that I said.
Ladies, he making some too much sense. Somebody cry. Somebody cry. Somebody cry.
So what? All I'm saying, because saying that, all right, now we got our own money, we want y'all to be emotionally intelligent. That's a great fucking argument until it becomes a real life situation and you start to deal with an emotionally intelligent and you realize it ain't been enough of them in your life and you don't know what to do with that type of man.
You're not lying. You're not lying. This is fact.
Sweetheart,
this is fact.
my baby, if all you done had is dudes that don't know how to express themselves, don't come sitting in front of me, a nigga that know how to express himself, complaining when I goddamn express myself. You understand what I'm saying?
Any thoughts about that, bro?
Well, he's right, but the thing is, he's willing to express himself as a man, and not for the entertainment or the uplifting of a female. Okay, and women don't know what to do with that because I can't tell you how I feel. I'm willing to tell you exactly how I feel in your terms. You can't deal with that.
Yeah,
that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's willing to tell the truth.
And I want brothers to be that free. I want that brothers to be that clear, that honest about how they feel, even if you know it's not going to be received well. When I was younger, what I was taught by slightly older brothers, because I didn't have a lot of older men that would tell me a lot of this, but slightly older brothers would tell me, you don't want to do anything to disrupt her mood. You don't want to disrupt the evening. You don't want to upset anything. Say whatever makes her feel good. That, I think, was part of the Gen X. Black Gen X is for men, kind of training as far as seducing women. Right. When women would joke about it, girl, he talked himself out of some sex tonight. We were about to go there and he said something stupid. And what I've learned is I've reached the point where I would rather be honest and say what if I think something needs to be said, if it's something that I deal with in time, it is what it is. But if I think it's something that needs to be said, I don't give a damn. If the night has to end, if her mood has to change, and that's where I want brothers to get to, where your sense of well-being is not dependent on whether or not she's in a good mood or whether or not you're going to get sex in a given night.
Willing to take the L.
Yes, if need be. I'm not saying look for the L. Do what you want to do. But I mean, but I learned, I'm just saying the way I learned it. Even if something was valuable and important to me, it needed to be sublimated in order for me to keep her happy. And I think the subtext to that was that, sex is what I needed for happiness. So I couldn't possibly disrupt the evening because I didn't want to lose out on sex and thus be in the doghouse and whatever. But, I came to find that contentment actually meant more. And I'm not saying it needs to be an either or. I mean, live your life. What I'm saying, I found, and I think a lot of men discovered this during the pandemic, that you can find contentment, you can find, a kind of sense of calm and peace in your own life that doesn't have to depend on anybody else's mood. And if people are willing to put their needs and wants against your own sense of self-peace, have the capacity to walk away if need be.
If need be, yeah.
But just like the brother pointed out, when you get to that point, you'd be surprised how few know how to deal with men like that. He does it all my life. I had to fight. But he's real. He said I had to fight my mother, my sisters, my aunts. I get it.
Yeah, you're a Sigma. Yeah. Sigma males got to fight.
But if you're in a family full of women, the idea is, this is a real subtle thing that women ignore often, right? But men who've been alone in families full of women can attest to this if they've developed the language to even articulate it to themselves. You experience things differently, you see things differently, you acknowledge when you're treated differently, even within the family, but none of them will ever do it. They won't acknowledge it. This stuff, as far as they're concerned, is just in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to get to the capacity where you validate your own experiences. Because if you allow it, women will tell you what you experienced, how you should feel about it, and what you should do.
Yeah.
Which is often shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Shut up, fool. You don't know what you talk about until they start talking to their girlfriends or their fellow sistren and really tell the truth about how they feel about you.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, so that being said, there's a lot of that. But there was also, this is something I wanted to get your outlook on as well. This is something that really kicked off me wanting to come back into this subject matter alongside you doing shows about it. I hate when they get all these commercials on here, but this is an article in Atlantic Black Star. It's called Being Told Their Feelings Don't Matter. Black psychologist lists top 3 issues her black male patients tell her about in therapy. Right? All right. So let's see here. Let me back this up a little bit. That's a little too far. All right. Sorry about this. Just kind of bouncing around too many screens. Just kind of get that straight. All right. So a video of a black psychologist discussing the 3 main talking points that her black male patients bring up in their therapy sessions is sparking some discussion online. I guess that's her there. Right. She says Dr. Raquel Martin is her name. She's a licensed clinical psychologist who specializes in black mental health. Well, shit, y'all know what to do. I'm gonna have Snoop tell us about it.
Dr. Raquel Martin is a licensed clinical psychologist who specializes in black mental health and wealth and talks about all things relating to mental health, wellness, and social justice on her social platforms. She's racked up nearly 800,000 followers on TikTok and more than 180,000 followers on Instagram. In one video of that's garnering a good amount of attention during Men's Mental Health Month in June, she spells out the 3 main complaints that black men discuss most during their sessions with her.
All right. These advertisements just get on my nerves, man. Damn. All right.
Before listing the complaints, she says these issues aren't exhaustive, but they cover a majority of the pain points that her black male patients experience. That includes emotional expression problems, learning how to advocate for oneself, and numbing behaviors. Martin says she often encounters patients who don't realize they have emotional expression issues, particularly with an ability or tendency to recognize feelings, known as affect identification. According to the National Institutes of Health, affect identification, also known as emotion identification, is defined as an individual's ability to be aware of their responses in varied daily interactions. It's the ability to identify your emotions, discriminate your emotions, and understand your range of emotions. Martin said in an interview with Atlantic Black Star, this means naming them appropriately and giving them latitude. Sadness and depression are 2 different things. Being happy and being ecstatic are 2 different things. She points out that some of these men often receive recommendations to go to therapy because don't realize they have issues identifying their emotions, which can significantly impact and deteriorate their relationships.
I'll say this. I'm not arguing that all men know how to do this and it's a secret that women don't. There are plenty of men and women, for that matter, that have this issue. But what I am saying is there are men who are, who can articulate and identify their emotions, but it's not received as such if it doesn't come in the form.
Right.
Often women want it to come, and that includes female therapists.
Yep.
Many brothers have attested to this. I've experienced it myself when my wife and I sought out marital counseling. We found almost all the people we looked up were females. And when we finally, got one and we started working with her, now this is how cold this is. My wife, in the middle of a session, turned and looked at me and said, "Damn, Hasan, she really does hate men." Now, you know how much how bad it has to be for your wife in the midst of an argument that you two are having, and a therapist that is completely backing anything she says, for your wife to turn and say, "You know what? You're right. She does hate men." You have to imagine how bad it has to be for that to happen. Yeah. That's where it got to. And again, I think that's why it's important that these fields do have men be present, because having people in the room when ideas are vetted and discussed is critically important. And when you have men say that aren't in the room, women will say, well, we're already accounting for them. We get the male experience. The theories we're talking about are universal. We're fine. No, that's not often how it is. And so when these concepts are used and applied to families, to married couples or whatever, even individual therapy,
right,
it often comes in ways that are not specific to how men process and experience situations and emotions. Go ahead.
Or even show emotions. That's why the whole thing about emotional labor and showing the difference in how men actually perform it.
Yes.
You know, most women don't understand how men actually perform emotional labor. They think it's cruelty. They think they're being mean, abrupt, harsh, stoic, whatever it is. Things they don't understand it, but they actually don't want to try to understand it. That's the problem.
They don't. And stoicism in and of itself, they look at it as, a handicap, an inability of men. Now, for some men, that's probably the case, but there are plenty of men that also understand that my stoicism is strategic.
Yes.
Because if I know I'm with the kind of woman that will weaponize a vulnerability that I share with her and use it against me when she feels like it, then me being stoic is not only a self-protective gesture, it can also be a way of retaining respect. Like think about you're with your family and an emergency takes place, a potentially life-threatening emergency.
Right.
And your wife and kids see you go, oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Yes, exactly. Yeah. They're going to panic too.
They're going to panic too. Now I'm not saying being this inhuman Terminator type being I think it's detrimental to men in the long run. I think we talk about, John Henryism when it comes to Black men, that is a life-death issue. I believe it takes years off your life. I don't have any clinical evidence of that. This is merely my suspicion. But I do understand at the same time that there is a reason that men have to be stoic as a sacrifice for loved ones and their well-being. Because if I freak out and if I lose control, what do they have to rely on?
Right.
And what do we hear from women? We became masculine because y'all are not masculine enough. No, there are plenty of brothers that put that work in. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. So I just wanted to kind of lay that out there when it comes to being able to identify emotions and whatnot, that all of these are on the table. Oh, and I will add this. When it comes to emotional labor, even the things that you value, we have a tendency to turn into emotional labor for women.
Right.
Think about sex.
Especially Black men. Yeah.
Especially Black men. How would sex be different for most brothers if it was just about his pleasure?
Wow. Yeah.
You tell me how because again, I grew up in the era where men told each other, because this was something women told us, right? That you needed to be able to go for hours.
Yeah.
And so even at a young age, I remember at 15 years old, brothers were sharing this information with each other about women's expectations of them in bed. You had to now, and even in high school, what that ended up being was girls would lay there and just, lay there. And the idea was that you needed to pleasure her.
Right.
And this demonstrated your prowess, your capacity as a male. If she was unpleased, your reputation was toast.
Yeah, and your value as a male was diminished. Yeah,
was diminished. But if and the only way you could learn these things was to have sex. So you had to have sex, and then you had to learn how to please women, and then you had to be able to go for hours, and then you had to know all about these different positions, and you had to know about her anatomy. You had to be able to do things that she found pleasurable, and yet maybe even didn't even understand. You had to be the one to take the initiative and learn all of these things, right? Because and if you did any of it in a way that obviously wasn't pleasurable, that was not just they didn't interpret that as, oh well, this session just didn't go the way I want. No, that meant that there was something wrong with you, right? And so again, this is the generation of men that learn this. So going back to emotional labor, even when it comes to sex, something men are often very much driven by, you still have to perform the thing you want in a manner that is not just pleasing to her. That's not what I'm saying. That was a form of emotional labor, taking into account her emotions, right? You had to be able to pay attention to her responses. BGS.
Yes, sir.
You ever been with someone that you knew or learned in the session had some type of emotional or sexual trauma in her past?
Oh, yeah. Just about all of them. All my serious relationships, yeah.
And what did you do? Did you just continue ramming away and then call it a day, or what did
No,
you?
no. You stop and you have her talk about it, and you hold her and comfort her, and you try to figure it out. Sometimes try to figure out a way around it. How can I actually get you through this session? How get you through this pain that you're in?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You stop. You don't keep just pounding away. You stop because you want her to feel, especially black men, you want her to feel good because you're having that sex mostly for her anyway. So
And if you're the one with emotional or sexual trauma in your past, and it starts to spill over into sex, are women trained on what to do for men in that situation?
no, they're not. They are not. And
They
most
just
women will actually dump you. So because you're too hard to deal with.
you're too hard to deal with.
Unless you got kids and you're paying the car note, the car and house note, then she can't dump you. Okay,
No,
you
but
got to figure it out.
she may lose respect for you.
She will lose respect for you.
Yeah, and being married to someone who does not respect you, you want to talk about the seventh circle of hell. But anyway, no. So I just wanted to put that on the table. Sometimes emotional labor can take the form of the things that you yourself like or value in a relationship, but you still find yourself performing that for her. And again, that to me it's a different conversation from saying that two people having sex should try to please each other. That's to me should be a given. That's not the conversation.
Right.
Conversation I'm saying I'm having at this juncture is when it becomes a form of emotional labor that's expected of you and is often not reciprocated.
Yeah, she's not expected to know anything. And if she's very well experienced, you're expected to actually rise to her level of experience.
Mm-hmm. Whether you've had the requisite experience or not.
Yeah. If you're going to be with me, you got to, and I've had women compare me to their other men. So.
And they'll tell you.
they have. It was you didn't perform it right. Okay. Well, such and such, he did it this way, and I liked it better.
I think Patrice O'Neill said it best. He was talking about the difference between older men and older women when it comes to sex. And he said older men love to teach. They love to share new information. They do that. He said older women will not. He said if you're in bed with an older woman and you don't know what you're doing, she will get up and leave and you will never see her again. He said, whereas older men are like, okay, yeah, let me show you this.
Yeah, new territory.
Patrice was nuts, man. But rest in peace to Patrice O'Neill. But let's get back to the rest of this article. So here we go.
On the point of self-advocacy, Martin says this issue perpetuates itself in situations where her black male patients are being used in a number of different ways because they adopt and identify with expectations that are thrust upon them. They don't realize that they are more than those roles to which they become accustomed. A lot of my black men patients will describe scenarios where they are objectively being treated inappropriately, objectively being invalidated, objectively being told their feelings don't matter. Martin explains in the video, they're just there to serve a purpose, which is either like money or sex or just to complete tasks and thinking that that's normal for them. Actor David Mann revealed his struggles with depression during an interview on the Tamron Hall show last October. He said he felt he couldn't reveal those struggles partly because he had identified so strongly with his role as a caretaker for others. At honest moments, oftentimes our men choose suffer in silence. Let's normalize checking in on their mental health and encourage them to seek help when needed. Therapy is okay. Mental health matters. Men and mental.
It went off on the side thing. I wasn't expecting. Let me get it from here. Come on. There we go.
In that same interview with Hall, Mann also said the only way he could grapple with and find relief from his mental health problems was by going into his office and sleeping. As for the issue of feeling numb, Martin said, I've had a significant amount of black men patients state that they are having difficulty feeling. She lists off examples like using more substances, increases in risky behavior and dangerous behavior, as well as consistently playing video games without feeling a sense of pleasure and recreation. She underscores that these behaviors indicate that these patients don't enjoy life activities anymore. They realize something is off. They realize they don't handle certain things well, and they are trying to improve themselves before they connect with someone else. Martin states, she recommended several methods black men can employ to cope with emotional expression, self-advocacy, and numbing issues, therapy included. However, her foremost piece of advice is to begin the process of looking inward and acknowledge if these issues are present. If you see yourself in these symptoms, you have to face that. You can't heal what you don't reveal, Martin explained. She also recommends decreasing time from numbing behaviors through different activities such as journaling, walking, working out, breathing exercises, and grounding exercises.
Now, any thoughts, BGS, about what men can do about numbing behaviors, and anything you want to share about numbing in and of itself?
No, numbing behaviors means that you're trying to escape from something, and the thing is that some of the stuff that she recommends, like as far as activities, men actually correct through activities. Women actually correct through talking. Men don't correct the same ways. Basically, men actually activate these things through their bodies, and then what she actually advocates is actually number one, recognizing, okay, the your value. That's one thing, okay, that you are being taken advantage of, and you're not the role that you've been put into. You have to get rid of that thinking, get rid of that socialization, okay. And the thing is, what I want to tell men is that the way that you emote, the way that you process, the way that you talk, the way that you express your feelings is valid. Okay.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the way that she thinks that it's supposed to be expressed. Okay. You don't have to like the man said, it's a when you get it with an emotionally intelligent man that expresses himself as a man, women can't handle it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They can't handle it. And the thing is, they don't teach you that. Even psychologists, even she doesn't teach how to express yourself as a male. That's how come you need a man to actually teach you that. How can you get in touch with your feelings as a man? A woman can't teach you that.
Yeah.
She can give you suggestions, but she can't teach you that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and how you get in touch with your feelings as a man is not the same as how a woman gets in touch with her feelings. It's not the same way.
It's not the same. Shout out to AH. Welcome to the Onyx Brotherhood. Let's see. Shout out to the real Blackula. I'm sorry, that killed me. Dr. T and BGS. If the university raced American black women from the U.S., would black men be okay dating in the U.S.?
Black men have been trained to serve, so black men, as a group, can go all over the world and date because we're way more egalitarian, we're way more giving, we're way more serving, and women do like that. I don't care what race of woman they are, what culture. And in fact, most women are not used to us serving because their men don't serve in the same capacity that we do. So American black men can go any place and date.
Bed Mike says these women are moving like men, should now be their helpmates now. So much for their argument on equality. Okay, so these women are moving like men, should now be their helpmates. Yeah, and I've heard some women actually say that on some of these videos. One woman in particular was talking about men need to be wives.
Yes.
They need to be wives now. But the reality is, especially when you're talking about son husbands and husband sons, there have been men who've been groomed to be wives or husbands for generations. And when I say husbands, I mean husbands in the sense that he serves her, not husbands in the sense that we talk about, where you actually have reciprocity in a relationship, but really wives essentially. I mean, when you talk about homosexuals and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Essentially wives.
We call them concubines. The first half of the concuserve, which is where the sexual prowess comes in. You're trained to be a concubine.
And many people underestimate what that entails. I mean, there's a certain, you have to be emotionally literate, meaning that, and I said this earlier when I was talking about my wife, I got to the point where I could tell by the way she walked where her head was or what mood she was in. The way a certain person blinks, the way they say certain things. When you get to the point where you can read somebody's personality well enough to not only understand where they are without them having to say it, and anticipate it in different ways. And some of this can even take place on the spot in bed, you know what I mean? Or on the spot in a given activity. That takes a great deal of skill. Contrary to what, people will say, I think they just expect it of men. But no, this takes a great deal of skill and practice for men to get to that point. And this is why it's that much important. That's that much more important that men understand the value of what they contribute.
Right.
and what's
Right.
expected of them, because we're taught that it has no value. We're taught
Mhm.
that it doesn't even have a name. This is just something you're supposed to do, and if you don't figure it out quick enough, she'll leave, and you'll sit there wondering why, right? Until you start figuring this out.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, you're performing all this this sexual labor and emotional labor for women to get what? Sex. Okay. But
Mhm.
basically, I asked a guy. He said he had a roster of like 20 women. I said, okay. I said, what do you get for it? Well, I get sex. Okay, you're performing sex. Do they perform it on you, or do you perform it on them? I perform it on them. So you provide all the pleasure, all the labor. You spend the money. You get what for it?
Mhm.
They had to stop and think. You do all the work to do what? To get what?
Yeah.
And is that enough for you? If that's enough for you, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Here, I'll share with you just real briefly another
Mhm.
example
Mm-hmm.
of emotional labor. Right. So another example of it. Here we go. So you asked if she wanted to play.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius. Real Men of Genius. Today we salute you.
So that was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
She said she didn't want anything from Chick-fil-A. He
Right.
anticipated that she would.
Yes.
And to eat off his plate, which a lot of
Yes.
men hate.
Yes.
So he got her own bag, kissed him and walked away. That's emotional labor,
Mm-hmm.
right? But men are not supposed to be known for doing it. But there are plenty of men that have been doing it for years. This is generational. Men have done this since whenever. There's no beginning point to this. And it may be subtle, it may seem like nothing, but that's actually incredibly important. And it takes a great deal of skill and observation and patience to be able to do it. He didn't argue with her, you know. He didn't go back and forth with her. And I bet money that the average brother has. He's watching what he's watching, and he didn't have to lose out on what he was watching because he anticipated her needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many 2-hour arguments come about from stuff like this?
Oh yeah, yeah, yep. And if she did say that she didn't want anything, and you did go get something, and you didn't come back with anything for her, then a month later she'd be talking about it, that you didn't think about me, you didn't consider me.
Right. Even though he texted and asked her what she wanted.
What she wanted, yeah.
It's very much, yeah.
You're supposed to know. I've heard that in all my relationships. You're supposed to know what I think.
Yeah. Okay, so continue with the article. It says tailor your coping skills to you. That's why it's helpful to know what you're feeling in your body. So she's saying, for men, whatever your coping skills are, you should tailor it to you and your interests.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Martin told Atlantic Black Star that several mental health issues that are prevalent in the Black community are actually heavily linked to racism and the way America treats Black people. Black people are often shown that it's not safe to express their emotions. That stems from adultification and dehumanization, Martin said. Black children are often taught by their parents that they must be tough because the world is tough on them. Adultification connects directly to the overmasculinization of young Black boys and the oversexualization of young Black girls. To repair those effects, Martin encourages creating safe spaces at home where Black men can feel secure and open to sharing various troubles and traumas. If the home environment is where many emotional issues start, it's where they can be resolved, Martin points out. She finds that even in relationships and within marriages, it's imperative to establish those spaces at home, especially since the world doesn't do enough to validate Black people.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you in particular, and shout out to Mr. Me Too for the donation. Much appreciated. I want to get to your thoughts about this sentence here. Adultification connects directly to the over-masculinization of young Black boys and the over-sexualization of young girls. What are your thoughts about that, sir?
I think I think it's reversed. I think it's reversed. I think it's those over sexualization of Black boys and making Black girls more masculine. I think the way it's taught by Black women. You got to be independent. You got to be tougher. You got to speak out. You got to be more forthright. You got to, you got to make more demands. That's masculine.
Man, see, I'm so glad I didn't even have to say it. I mean, I read that and I was like, wait a minute. What?
Now that may be true for other races, okay, other cultures, but not for our culture.
Right. Right.
Okay, it's reversed for our culture.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because your when I grew up, my identity as a male, as a man, was based on provision and my performance in the bed.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, to the point where I've had a woman get up, in my early years and tell me that, that your D is trash. Okay.
Mm. Wow. Okay.
Okay. So you had to learn really quickly that, okay, if you want some kind of respect from that woman and your peers, you need to rectify that. So you had to really bear down and actually mentally, uh, logically learn how to handle her body, how to handle your body, how to pleasure her, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and how to seduce her, okay. That's a mental process, a mental learning process you have to go through. You have to learn that bit by bit, and also by, how I say, getting your reps in.
Well, and think about too what you just said when you talk about she assessed your sexual prowess. This can take place with someone you just met a couple hours ago. So
Yeah.
you're trying to anticipate what pleasures someone that you don't even know in many circumstances. And I go so far as to say, even if you're talking about game, part of the skill of game is walking up to a complete stranger, engulfing them in a dialogue that they want to participate in.
Right. You got to sell yourself. Game is selling yourself.
That takes skill.
It takes skill. Yeah.
The first time I ever got a job as a salesman, I learned watching the older guys who've been doing it, how much skill selling something, takes.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to realize that that's what you've been doing when you approach women. Hell, that's even what you do sometimes if you're having sex, right? Right out the gate.
And sometimes in a moment, if you want a repeat customer.
But what I'm ultimately saying though is that skill in men is depended upon by many women, and yet at the same time we're not even told how much they value it. It's an expectation that we do it and we do it well, but it's not necessarily given the value that it's due. As a matter of fact, it's not until like the last decade that I've heard men really start to talk about how much women seem to need it. I went to go see this movie the other day. I just needed to get out the house and just do something. So I went to go see that Jennifer Lawrence movie, No Hard Feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a comedy that they said actually overtook The Flash. That was a trip. They said that this one movie with Jennifer Lawrence overtook The Flash. I said, damn. But it's a movie about these parents that pay this woman to seduce their incel son. That's really what it is. So that in turn actually speaks to how much these issues are getting to the mainstream. And they're still not dealing with, say, the manosphere in any kind of respectful way, but the issues that the manosphere points to are things that people are dealing with, and they're really stuck on how to work around. So this movie is about these two parents that pay this woman to have sex with their son to get him out of his shell.
Right.
And just like Patrice O'Neal used to say, because he would talk about women have no game. He said the first time the woman that became wifey, when he said he would just kind of spend time with her, but he really wouldn't press anything. When she decided she wanted to have sex with him, her version of game was she brought him to her house.
Mm-hmm.
He sat down, he was watching TV. She went upstairs, she got undressed, and she came down in a t-shirt and I think maybe the panties or maybe not, but she got in front of the TV and bent over backward.
Okay.
Yeah. Excuse me, bent over forward.
Right.
And just let him see everything. Right. He was, and he laughed at it. He said that was her version of game.
Yes.
He said, guys, that's like you walking up to a woman and pulling your dick out. and when I was watching this movie, No Hard Feelings, all I could think about was Patrice O'Neal, because that's basically what she was doing. She was trying to seduce this 19-year-old guy who'd never had sex before, who women didn't really pay much attention to.
Right.
And her whole method for seduction was just like to get naked in front of him.
Yeah, and put the food in front of him, huh?
And he still didn't get the cues. And I understood they were playing it for laughs, but the other dimension to it was he wasn't used to women approaching him. So she's, by conventional standards, she's this really bombshell white woman. And he's just looking at her like, why are you here? You know what I mean? He's like, you motherfuckers ain't talked to me ever. Why am I supposed to believe it? And there was one point that I did laugh where he thought she was trying to kidnap him at one point. and he maced her in the face because he thought she was. But the real point he was getting at was, women don't approach me, so there must be a reason that you're doing this. And the irony was, he was right.
Yeah.
The reason she was doing it is she needed to get paid from her parents, from his parents.
Yeah.
And that was the only reason she was coming at him so hard. And he knew something was wrong because he understood. I think, really what they don't want to talk about is the sexual marketplace.
Yeah.
Sexual marketplace value. And young men, especially men who are not considered attractive or whatever, they understand the sexual marketplace. And a woman like that is not usually rolling up on you without a reason. And he was right.
Yeah.
That's what made him uncomfortable. And it was funny. But the thing that got me about it is that Patrice O'Neal's whole statement around, the way women seduce. They don't talk you into seduction. That's what he was saying. He said they don't know how to because they've not had.
No, they don't. They're not used to approaching, so they don't have to.
Yeah, but you have to learn to talk her into whatever it is you want to do, whether it's you want to just have sex that night or get married. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of talk her into that. If it's reversed, he was like, it's a ridiculous show of inability, and he killed me on that. But a lot of Patrice O'Neal is still not understood, man. There's a lot of information in some of his performances that people should really listen to. Anyway, let me see. In an interview on the Big Facts podcast last year, rapper Kevin Gates talked about his fight with depression, how many men suffer in silence, especially if they don't feel like they can vocalize their emotions to those in their own homes.
Right.
Let's see if you guys can hear this at all.
A lot of men don't speak about this, but a lot of...
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I think I just lost it.
Men suffer in silence also. When you a provider, and you a real provider, but you already unhappy, and you not feeling like you being celebrated in a proper manner, you feel like you're only being tolerated. Like a lot of people be like, why certain men don't go home? Like when I was in the streets, I used to hate going home because I feel like it's cool, but I ain't welcome though. Because it don't feel embracing when I go home. It's like, y'all act like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And a lot of men suffer from that and not knowing that it's okay to have your man cave. You have to go in your solitude and have your time for yourself in order for you to release. Because we so busy being tough and harboring all these resentment and emotions and all the shit we deal with. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Now I'm going to play. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but you notice he said, I have to go into my man cave first to be able to release, right? Women come in the door talking, okay, to release, okay. Men have to think over their thoughts and their emotions first and then release, okay. Yes. Women are the opposite. That's what I was trying to say. Men express their emotional labor and their emotions differently. They approach them differently.
Yeah.
He didn't say I need to come in, drop my stuff, and go in and talk to my wife about about my day. Okay. Yeah. He didn't. I need to go into my man cave, cool down, think about my day, and then go back and express my emotions to her.
Yeah. To Josiah, you asked about where you can find Patrice O'Neal pertaining to this. He only has a couple of formal albums up. I think there's only like 2 or 3 albums that are up and that you can purchase. There's his HBO show, Elephant in the Room. And then he did a talk show online called
Black Phillip. Yeah.
So check those out and you'll find it in there. It's all, with Patrice, everything's all mixed in. So he'll tell the same story a couple different times, but I'm afraid I can't tell you where exactly. Because I listen to so much Patrice, it just comes out of my pores. So, but you can find that. But here's another that's the same subject.
Even black men who are not famous, who are not legends, who are not icons like yourself, we don't talk.
We ain't allowed to show no weakness, brother.
Yep.
And that's one of the most traumatic things in the world. A black man that might actually need some help. You might really need some help. It's challenging for you to even bring yourself to a place of comfort, to call someone to tell them that you really need some help and ask for it, and not be afraid that somebody is going to take that situation that you're going through and exploit that shit to embarrass you or humiliate you.
Yeah.
So
we walk alone.
You definitely, majority of the time, walk alone.
Facts.
What I would like to see happen is that brothers learn to walk alone together, if that makes any sense. I mean, if we as a demographic find ourselves exiled for all intents and purposes, socially, politically, and in a variety of other ways. We need to master being a resource to one another. And that's one of the primary reasons I'm in this space. It's one of the primary reasons I work with other content creators that do the work that I respect, because, you know, among other things, one of the things they're pushing for is that Black men become a resource to one another.
Right.
You know what I mean? That way, at the very least, I know what you're going to go through. This is one of the reasons I have young brothers who are, you know, going into the academy. They're trying to figure out how to navigate, and they want to research Black men. You know, I want them to come to brothers like myself, brothers like Tommy Curry and Green Gorilla and Dr. Ronald Neal. I want them to go to brothers. We need to be a resource to each other in a variety of different areas. I don't care what the subject matter is, because otherwise we stand alone.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, those are the kind of things I want to see kind of shift a little bit, and we got to get better at it, because we kind of learn not to trust each other very early.
Mm-hmm.
We learn not to trust anybody, really, but you know, we still don't extend trust to the only other person that can possibly understand, which is another brother. Dead Set, what's good, man? Says men walk alone together is an army, and that is a threat to the state, hence state support of the gynocracy. Well
That's
put.
true. That is very true.
Well put.
Truer than you know.
Yeah, real talk. Let me get back to it. Here we go. Let's go here.
The world is tough, so we have to provide a safe space to land. It can be really helpful to validate Black men. When you think about validating, it's about acknowledging their thoughts, emotions, and experiences. It lets them know their relationship with you matters. Martin explained, it's about being present. It's okay to say, I don't know what you're feeling, but I want to. I don't understand, but can you help me? This world invalidates us, so don't let your home be a model of the way the world treats you. Martin said she wants Black men to understand they deserve spaces where their validation is prioritized, inside and outside the home. Therapy is just one of those spaces. You can just come to therapy because you want to have someone to talk to and have a therapeutic alliance with someone that does not invalidate you. She said, there's no specific reason to go. Just go. It's not an act of violence to say you need therapy. We deserve therapy. We deserve the experience. We deserve an environment that affirms us and helps us become the best versions of ourselves. You can find more resources, including a guide to finding a therapist on Dr. Martin's website.
All right. That's in the article. Any thoughts about that closing portion?
The thing is that finding a therapist that will validate you and not judge you, okay, and not weaponize your so-called weakness against you, okay. And as you said, when you went to a female therapist, she wasn't that fond of men, and she let that come through her therapy.
Yeah, which I think happens that much easier if you're trained. And even socialized in a space where everyone is, for the most part, is a reflection of you. I mean, this is what I was talking about the other day. I talked about the social bubble that many Black women find themselves in, right? Where, you know, at work, they're around other sisters. In the family, they're around other women. You know, socially, they're around other women. And even if these women are doing well, that becomes their social bubble. Because I was talking about Rebecca Lynn Pope. I was saying her social bubble, you can tell, are elite six-figure earning women. So it gets to a point where she talks about the lives of elite Black women as a norm. And that's only because that's her social bubble. But when you look at the statistics, that's only about 5% of Black America.
Right.
The majority of Black American women are grappling with real issues beyond just these first world, I can't find a husband kind of issues. It goes beyond that. It goes to, you know, survival. It goes to low wages and all that kind of stuff. And yes, many of those women will still have fantastical desires in men. I'm not absolving them of that, but I'm simply saying there's a way that a social bubble can isolate you from the realities of what people are experiencing on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But those are the loudest voices in the room, though.
Right.
It's unfortunate. And
there's an aspirational edge to it too. I think there are plenty of women that are nowhere near Rebecca Lynn Pope's, you know, class status, but they want to. They want to be. And so listening is an aspirational act. You know, you're going to identify with something you don't live because it's something you hope to live one day. And this is where you get the, you know,
what's called the manifest theory.
Absolutely.
I can speak it into existence.
Yes, those are the 4-figure millionaires. But yeah,
yeah. I can't take you anywhere, Doc.
Yeah. tell you need to buy her a house and all this shit. And you're like, baby, you live with your mama. What are you talking about?
Well, you need to work 3 jobs to afford my lifestyle.
Right. Come on. Stop it. Come on, stop it, baby. Anyway, but these are the kind of issues I wanted to put on the table. So as far as this work of emotional labor, I agree with the article in the sense that the seriousness of it as it pertains to men. I do believe men have to be proactive about creating the spaces they need to validate their existence. I wholly agree with that. And that's one of the reasons I played that. But, you know, when we get down to emotional labor, it doesn't tend to be something that we're trained to do. It doesn't tend to be something that even our families train us to do, especially if you're not coming from a family that has any men in it. You know, it tends to be something that you just got to figure out on your own. And often it still won't be validated. But this is why I think that there are certain content creators in particular, but, you know, social media as a whole can be helpful if you're in the right spaces that validate your experience and give you tips, alternatives, strategies, you know, things to reflect upon. You know, that's why I listen to BGS IBMOR. I listen to his show on a regular basis. I think he's made it a practice of doing this. And so when I invite him on my show, it's my attempt to give him his flowers while he's here. But hey, man, that's another form of support brothers have to master. Give each other the flowers while we're here. Because none of us saw Kevin going. None of us. When the first time someone called to tell me Kevin was gone, I was like,
I was stunned. I was stunned myself. I didn't believe it.
Even stunned. I just thought this was so untrue. It's not even worth being stunned by. Like I just didn't think it was real. So at the end of the day, brothers, gotta give each other our flowers.
And we didn't appreciate him when he was here. That was the problem. Not fully.
Knowing full well that the mainstream was going to denigrate him.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And at the same time, I want brothers to know it is completely okay to extend love to one another. This is the last clip I'm gonna play. At least I think it is. I got another one here. I don't know what it is, but this is a clip. You know, I posted on Facebook because I kept hearing that brothers do not emote. I want y'all to check this out. This is a message from one brother to a fallen friend. College fun. All right, man. Any thoughts about that, bro?
Yeah, you see the approach that he had to actually get to his emotions, right? He didn't start out with crying and tears and stuff like that. He started out with thinking. Remember the interaction he had with his friend and the stuff they went through, and then after you process that, then that's when the tears came out. Okay. And that's how men bond. That's how men emote. That's how men get in touch with their feelings. And I think that needs to be taught more.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not taught that way. Okay, it's not taught that way. It's not taught that way in psychiatry. It's not taught that way in schools. Okay, it's only taught that way on the sports field, on football, basketball. Okay, where you break down and then you get in touch with your body, get in touch with your thoughts, and then get in touch with your feelings.
Yeah, which is what you pointed out in Officer and a Gentleman.
Officer and Gentleman, yeah, he had to break him down first, to get him in touch with his feelings. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you get broken all the way down.
Yeah, he did.
Military he did. Coaches in sports, they will break you down.
Yeah,
you know, and then the next thing you can express.
Yeah, you can express it. Then they build you back up.
Yeah,
then they support you. Yeah. But that's the process that men have to go through. Women, you can't do that with a woman, okay? Because if you break her down before she gets her feelings out, then she's gonna be broken. She won't, you know. You basically you've screwed up the process. Okay, it's a different process. You trying to break a woman down while she's trying to emote, man. She's it'll shatter her, and she will never trust you. And you break up. The whole interaction will be gone because you can't do. You have to comfort her first, and then lead her to solving whatever problem she has. So it's reversed, you know. Same point. Trying to get to the same point, but thing is you try to, you know, the meet him in the middle. But thing is you approach it from two different angles.
So it's a fundamentally flawed approach to first assume that we're all the same, and I don't mean in terms of being individuals. I mean even in terms of gender, that we're all the same, and thus we're gonna take the same approach.
Yes.
To addressing any of this because we're all the same. But usually, you have a universal subject as the standard for what it is you're defining your therapeutic or your whatever approach you're using. And if that universal subject doesn't fit, then you're often going to do damage when it comes to helping people. So you do have to take those things into account. And I'm watching in the university the attempt to dissolve gender, but only on very cherry-picked ground. Like gender is still acceptable when it comes to women, girls, and even LGBT. But but when it comes to men, you just got to suck it up. You just got to deal with it. And of course, there's often this, feminist, female-oriented standard that you're supposed to operate against when it comes to managing emotions. And I think all of that is just leading to further problems. And especially when you talk about boys, the alienation of boys in K through 12, as far as they're, feeling welcome in the damn classroom.
Right.
We're seeing boys really checking out. And this has been going on for a minute, and it's across race. It's not limited to just black males anymore. Of course, black males get the worst of it. Statistically, you can bear that out. But boys in general are grappling with this. So when we talk about this need to address emotional maturation, strategies for emotional expression, there's an old tradition of initiation. This is something you see glamorized in Star Wars with the master and the student. It really is. You see it in martial arts, right? The master and the kind of Padawan. You take that from Star Wars, but it's the same dynamic. But there's a reason for it. Going back to the ancient era, the reason was because you needed to walk these young men into the space in a different way. And this is why you didn't really hear about women using the master and student kind of dynamic the same way you saw with men. Women had a different process.
They did. They bond differently. So there's a wise woman, but there is no master. There's no master teacher that for females. It's a wise woman that kind of bonds with her. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas a master, as you said, will break you down.
Break you down.
Every martial art I've ever been in, every spiritual school where I had a master, they broke you down.
Yes.
And in martial arts, I'm going to tell you, I used to walk in the door when I was young thinking that these 40, 50, 60-year-old dudes who look like, somebody you just see walking down the street, I used to think, they ain't nothing. He can't do nothing until after that first day of practice. But that's part of why they did it, though. They knew you didn't really appreciate what you were going to get. You didn't know what it was. You didn't understand it. So they had to establish order. You go into them schools and you will see a 60-year-old man throw your ass against the wall, and you might be able to bench press 2 of him, but you're lucky if you can get a hit off. And that's part of the process of breaking you down first, so you can gain an appreciation for the teacher.
Yeah. Highlight that. There's I think Blood Crow is a comment. He was actually a drill instructor. Highlight that, because he's actually repeating what we're saying.
How about that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. BGS ain't lying. I was a drill instructor in the Air Force basic training, and you have to break down female flights differently than male flights.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm curious what they taught him as far as that, or is this something he just had to figure out on his own?
No, I mean, I'm sure they teach you, but also you if you go through it, you notice it, and if you're a drill instructor, you learn. Okay. That women are different. They have to be approached differently.
Yeah. And that's why I appreciated your critique with Officer and the Gentleman, because you even saw that there. You saw that there. What did he call her? He called her something. The white woman that was trying to run.
Sugar Britches. Sugar Britches. Yeah.
She hated that shit.
Yeah, she did.
But yeah, very different relationship.
Very different.
Very different.
But he admired her. But he admired her for her gumption to actually try.
Yeah, but admiration comes out in a different way.
In a different way, yeah. His admiration of her comes out a different way, and she, when she finally graduated, she figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that based on the father-daughter dynamic?
It's father-daughter dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah. Malika said it's Sugar Britches. Dave Posey says cigar. I fell out first time I saw that. I said, you just call it Sugar Britches? She was there at the end, though. She was there at the end.
Yeah, she was there at the end. Yeah.
And when she saluted him after she got her accolades, you saw that he was holding that tear, boy.
Yeah.
You know, he was holding that tear back. And I can tell you, as you know, as a professor, when you see your students finally master what you're trying to teach them,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of students that have passed the course, which
Mm-hmm.
you know I'm happy about. But when I see a student that I know has mastered
Right.
what I'm teaching
Mm-hmm.
beyond the expectations of the course, yeah, I've been at the graduation and I've been on stage, you know, putting that tassel on them, putting that banner on them, all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, you were holding that tear for some of them, boy. Some of them you can't wait for them to get the hell out of here. I gave you a grade just to help get out of here.
Get out of here, take it and run.
Yeah, run before I change my mind. But some of them, boy, you like, man, I watched him go through the fire and come out a man, and I feel like I contributed to something. And those brothers, shit, 20 years later, I'm still in contact with them in one way, shape, or form, because it's a sacred initiation to be able to help a young man transition into manhood. So I don't take this light, and I'm asking brothers, you know, whatever skill you have, whatever resource you have, if you identify a young brother that needs that help and you're willing to engage him, do so and take it seriously, because you might be the only one he's ever had be willing to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so that said, anything you want to close out with in regard to any of this, any thoughts you have to leave people with?
What, you know, I think that what you're doing is so important because I don't think, you know, they appreciate the difference in women, how they express themselves, but I don't think they understand men.
Yeah.
Or accept how men actually express themselves, that it's different. Like you said, they think it's a blank slate, that men are supposed to be women. If you don't express it as women do, it's not emotional. I think we need to change that. The way it's taught. Mayonnaise.
like dropping it. But why would you say that? Why do you think?
Well, because I see it in the young men that come to the space, right, when they first come, right. You can hear it, the way they've been socialized, the way they've been taught, and that they're fighting it, trying to get them out of that cycle. That it's okay to express yourself as a man. You don't have to say feel. You don't have to use certain words or keywords. You can actually express it the way you think it, the way that you feel that it comes out of you.
Yeah.
You don't have to change it. You don't have to be a middle class white girl to have your feelings validated.
Right.
I think that should be taught. That's why I believe in all boys schools, because they take you through a different initiation process. Okay, how you express yourself is different. And I see that when a lot of guys, they're so excited when they come here to express themselves, man. They bubble over because they didn't actually express themselves that way. Yeah, they don't have no place else to do it. Yeah.
You know, I think I came to that conclusion the first time I watched you do one of the Coliseums. And, you know, and you were there. I think y'all were there for like 8 or 9 hours, which I thought was a typo as far as
I remember that
YouTube was concerned. I was like, nobody doing no 8 hours.
8 hours.
8 minutes, man. And I scrolled through that bad boy. I said, wow, they really did. But the other thing I saw was, you know, men who you could tell, you know, had not really been heard.
Nope.
You know, and had observations to share, ideas to work through, but didn't have another space to go to engage them, where they'd be taken seriously and their experiences would be valid.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, I appreciate that work you've been doing and you continue to do. Tell people, you know, where else they can find you, how often, and when the next video is.
The next video will be tomorrow. We're actually going to be doing it on. They want to do it on, believe it or not, they want to do it on crypto and the Fed now and the dollar. Believe it or not. So it's going to be something different. And then the next one will probably be on animus, because they want to talk about that too. So, so
that and the astrology thing ain't going.
Oh, the old astrology. I had to prove it to somebody on one of my Patreon streams. He said astrology is just bullshit. I don't believe it, and you know. So I broke down his chart. By the time he said, okay, I need to learn more about this because that's exactly me. I said, yeah, how you apply it. You know, women go for the emotional stuff, the feel good stuff. Men don't cater to that kind of stuff. Give me the facts. Give me the proof. Give me the other kind of intangibles. You got to appeal to them logically instead of emotionally.
Right.
But I get pushback on that. Oh no, women can appeal to them logically, and that hasn't been my it hasn't been my experience. Okay. You have to get to that after you make them feel good. Okay, get them in the mood.
Well, hey man, as usual, I appreciate it. Willingness to come through. You got a lot on your plate, and so I'm always digging when you come over. You know, there's a standing open door to you, sir, at any time. I'm gonna reiterate that every time I talk to you.
That's it, Maggie. I have not. I've been saying this. Doc has known me for about 5 or 6 years, right? I have not changed. Okay, about me and being emotional. Okay, I didn't change my mind in this session. Okay,
It's not new. It's not new.
It's not new. Yeah,
but I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. So appreciate you, brother.
All right, Doc. Peace out.
All right, man.
And support your scholars if you haven't already. Give it a like, the video like. Hit the Cash App. Hit the super chat. You know, this is valuable. We're trying to change the way boys are taught and the way males are taught, with the way they actually get therapy. You can't do that unless we change it at this level. Trust me. Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right. Peace out.
What's up, Dr. Thunder? Look, man, at the end of the day, I want men to be a resource to one another, and I want us to be able to expand our vocabulary of interests beyond the conventional. There's nothing wrong with the conventional. There's nothing wrong with sports or whatever other activity we get into, but I do want us to widen that and engage in some dialogues that may be very needed, you know, but that means mastering a skill at being able to express and engage sometimes very difficult subject matter. You know what I mean? Sometimes trauma, but being able to do so in an organic way, not just in something we learned we're supposed to do and we're supposed to mimic other groups that do it. No, I want us to explore that in ways that are genuine for our experience and still meet the needs of the situation at hand. So, you know, I want us to extend that and allow for the kind of mentorship we all need at various levels. You know, I think the internet is pushing us to do so in some non-traditional ways. You know, it used to be a time period that I ran across where if you were younger than somebody else, you were automatically the mentee. And I think what the internet is forcing people to do is shift that dynamic. The person who's most skilled or most experienced ends up being the person to, you know, kind of mentor in a given subject. You know, so I think those are the kind of things that we're opening up to, and we need to. As long, because I think especially for Black men, the question has to be, is what we're doing effective? And if it isn't effective, then we need to figure out another way. And I'm just trying to, you know, put my 2 cents in the pot to help with that dynamic. But I don't profess to have all the answers. I come here to have the dialogue, to have the engagement, and I get the feedback from y'all. And speaking of which, please make sure that you comment after the video and let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your experiences are. Let me know what we missed and didn't cover. Let me know what may have reached out and hit you in the chest, whatever. Make sure you share it, because I think the dialogue afterwards continues this process and helps us, you know, engage one another. So that said, appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate your support. Hope you guys were able to enjoy the week so far. And I'll holla at y'all. Peace. I am here to tell you, brothers, we are not criminals by birth, perennial rapists, incapable intellects, man-children, sperm donors, child support wellsprings, success objects, walking phalluses, ATM machines, lottery tickets, unintelligent henchmen, valueless assassins, pro bono mercenaries, unpaid bodyguards, interchangeable stepfathers, child discipline proxies, unpaid repairmen, workhorses, emotional tampons, or any other socially accepted dehumanizing stereotype. We are thinkers, inventors, innovators, leaders, fathers, and men. Embrace your humanity, know your worth, and extend your time, attention, and resources only to those who genuinely respect you. And remember, your worth is not defined by meeting other people's narcissistic, selfish, and unrealistic needs. You define your worth. Peace.